down tree on the way. On my way to work, I had to go around. I saw where the water main break on the west end in Henrico was. So again, just be careful. There were tons and tons and tons of branches and debris on the road while I was driving to work this morning, not only on my street, but up and down main streets as well. So give yourself just a little extra time to get to work this morning. It's 6:34. I wanted to bring something up to you this morning. So as I went on my vacation last week, I spent time all around the Commonwealth. So like I said, I went to Appomattox Courthouse. That was pretty cool. Went to the Civil War Museum out there. Went up to Yorktown, went to the Revolutionary War Museum. Okay, listen, I love history. That's what I did on my vacation. Don't be judging me. But we went and did both the Red Trail and the Gold Trail. And Dave, you would love this driving tour. There's a Gold Trail. It costs like $15 a person to go on it. They don't really check your ticket, but I paid for it anyway. And it's a trail that goes through the encampments at Yorktown where the British and the French and the American forces were during the surrender of Cornwallis at Yorktown.
That does sound really cool. I'd love to do that.
It was, I didn't even know what I was getting into. So we started driving down this. Here's where Rochambeau's headquarters were. Here's where General Washington was. Here's where Cornwallis was. Here's where they had the cannons. Here's where this army slept and this army slept. It was really fascinating.
How long did it take you to do the whole tour?
About an hour.
Oh, okay, that's not bad.
No, because we stopped, and there's a point where you can overlook the field that the British surrendered to Washington, and then of course Cornwallis wouldn't come down and give it and relinquish his sword, so he sent his second in command to do it. Washington, filling the snub, actually had his second in command accept Cornwallis's sword as terms of surrender. When the British troops were coming down, they were so upset, they were so mad, they smashed their muskets down onto the ground, and the officers from the British Army actually had to stop and say, hey, listen, we're professional, do not do that. So it was rather fascinating. But there's this one point where you can drive through and you see where it's a little loop where General Washington had his headquarters, and then you could see where it's kind of carved out where Washington would have had his sleeping tent, his sleeping quarters.
Oh, very cool.
And you could stand there, all that. So I took my son Rigney with me. He goes, hold on a second. So what are you doing? He goes, I got to do physical training. I got to do PT. So he dropped down and did 10 push-ups at Washington's camp. So I thought that was kind of fun. Appomattox Courthouse was great. They had this reenactor telling living history, and that was rather special.
Yeah, I've never been to Appomattox Courthouse either, but I'd love
to a drive.
But I'm sure it's worth it.
Yeah, no, it was great. So we did a lot of that. We went to the Bird Theater. They had a remake of Reagan, the director's cut. So we went and watched that with George Allen, and Jason Miyares was there. We did that last week. So we did all that. But I went up to D.C. this weekend. And I just want to share this with you a little bit. So much was made on this program and in the news just not too long ago, about Washington, D.C., and the federal troops that were there, and the National Guard that had been called out and they're patrolling, and the federal law enforcement, and how they really said, we're going to clean up D.C. And Dave, you remember all the pushback that people gave. We don't want federal troops in here. This is dangerous. This is awful. Protests, people screaming, congressmen screaming. Well, I spent 3 days in Washington, and I just want to give you a firsthand report of what I saw and what the city was like. Now, I was there for the 4th of July, and that was just a madhouse. There were just so many people. We went to the Washington Monument for the fireworks and ended up having to leave 400,000 people. That was just chaos. So we go back over the weekend. So it's a couple weeks later after the whole 4th of July. And Dave, I will tell you, it was probably the safest big city I've ever seen. And believe it or not, David, it was one of the cleanest cities in America that I've ever seen.
I haven't been to DC in a while, but I've never seen it clean.
It was clean. Now, I'm going in the tourist area, so I'm near the National Mall. I'm not going out into the neighborhoods. I'm not going into Anacostia. I went into the Navy Yard, and that's about as far as I got out there. But just around D.C., the Capitol, the White House, I'd never seen it so clean. Dave, all the water fountains were working. Like there's one in front of Union Station that had been not working for years and years and years. That one's up and running. All the water fountains, all the monuments, all clean. There's not trash in the street, and you see roving patrols of 3 to 4 National Guardsmen just standing there, keeping watch on the city. And you could go down the street and feel safe, safer than I've ever been before. Like, I never wanted to wear my watch and ring when I go into DC simply because I was afraid I was going to get mugged. With the National Guard patrolling, don't get that feeling whatsoever. But I will tell you this from a couple of headlines that we saw. I'm just going to give you my firsthand point of view. Number one, the surge of federal troops and resources into the city has definitely made a difference. So I actually sat down in a bar and was sitting next to someone who works for the federal government. I won't tell you what agency it is. But he was there, and he said, working with Metro DC police, they've completely cleaned up the town to the point where the criminals are saying, like, okay, when are you guys going away? You're just overwhelming us. We can't do what we want to do. When they first started out, they were pulling in each patrol district or each car they were riding around, Dave, they were pulling one illegal gun off the street every hour. So if you're out there riding 6-7 hours, they're pulling 6 and 7 guns off. So by the time you get done with the paperwork, processing all the rest of this, you get back out, boom, you're grabbing somebody else with an illegal gun. That was when Donald Trump surged the federal troops and the federal agencies into Washington, D.C. Now, what is it, probably 9 months later, I'm guessing? They're doing maybe one a night. Completely different. And like I said, those people that were preying on the rest of those in D.C. are saying, can you guys please go away? You're completely overwhelming us. Every time we turn around, there's another federal troop or another federal agent in there pulling guns off the street, keeping the street safe. We can't do our nonsense anymore. So that was one thing I noticed, Dave. The other one thing I noticed, Dave, is that I walked through Washington. What was it? Saturday. I walked through. We went to the Nationals game over in the Navy Yard on Saturday afternoon. So Saturday during the day, a friend of mine who lives in Maryland, he's been a long-term resident. He said, "Let's just go for a walk." So we walked through, and we walked over to the Lincoln Memorial. And I had never been there before. I mean, I've driven by it before, but actually getting out and walking. We walked from our hotel over there, but we walked through the park. He showed me this really interesting monument to the signers of the Declaration of Independence. I thought that was pretty cool. It's this little bridge that goes across, and they all have their signatures there. We went through the Vietnam War Memorial. We went through the World War I Memorial. Went to Freedom Plaza and saw all those really great statues. But as I got to the reflecting pond, I'm going to tell you this, Dave. It was sad to see the reflecting pond covered again, because now they're having to redo the whole thing after July 4th because of the vandals that took knives to cut the liner inside the reflecting pool in front of the Lincoln Memorial. And as I'm standing there watching probably 1,000 people climb up and down the stairs to go see the Lincoln statue, and I had never been there before, so it was really eerie and interesting, and just a whole bunch of emotions came over me. The one thing I've always wanted to do ever since I saw Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, I just wanted to sit in the steps of the Lincoln Memorial and look over DC, and I did. But as I looked down from the steps, you saw the big fence, you saw the tarp over the top of the reflecting pool, and you saw the construction going on. And it just made me sad that someone had taken a knife and decided that they hated the president in this country so much, they took it upon themselves to vandalize that reflecting pool. And now it's under construction. And there are people like me that have waited their whole life to see that, just to sit there and experience something like sitting at the Lincoln Memorial and looking over the reflecting pool. And the fact that there's some individual that just decided, I hate this president so much, I hate this so much, I'm so angry, I'm such a malcontent that I'm going to take a knife and cut that. I'm going to do everything I can to vandalize that. It really made me sad just to sit there and watch what's going on. So while you're watching the news, I'm just going to tell you, here's what I really saw. The streets are safer. The feds are doing their job. They're getting guns off the street. The president was right. And the fact that someone just was so anti-Donald Trump that they decided they were going to have to take a box knife and cut the bottom of the reflecting pool and ruined it for all of those people that were there that day. Whoever that person is, I hope Judge Janine throws the book at that person, finds them as much as they possibly can, and gives them the most severe penalty, because what they did is they robbed everybody else who was sitting there that day. I want to get your thoughts. 833-804-1140. 833-804-1140. Oh, by the way, still looking for, and I got a couple, but I need some good ones. I was, like I said, when I was out on vacation, the people that would have conversations walking down the street on speakerphone, just standing there, like you're in a group of people, and let me tell you what happened last Tuesday. So annoying. But we had that story of someone on a cruise ship that was using a fork to scratch their foot. Just tell me, what are everyday annoying things that you have in your life that you just want to point out that maybe we can raise the issue and maybe we'll get people to stop? What is it? 833-804-1140, 833-804-1140 on the James River Air text line. Okay, let me tell you, today's program brought to you by Pearson Signature Dealerships. So I just want to thank the people at Chrysler Jeep Dodge, the Pearson Chrysler Jeep Dodge.